Focus so hard they can't ignore your results, because when you lock in, nothing can stop you. Most people don't lose because they're not capable. They lose because they can't focus. They let too many things pull them in too many directions, and every day their goals get buried under noise, comfort, and excuses. That's why this isn't about doing more, it's about locking in harder, every single day. Focus so hard you become unstoppable means putting your attention where it actually matters and keeping it there. It means showing up without needing hype. It means cutting distractions and choosing to go all in on the work, even when it's not exciting. This video will show you exactly how to do that. No empty advice, just real, proven ways to train your mind, control your attention, and make focus your daily standard. Because once you do, distractions lose their grip, procrastination fades, and your results speak louder than anything else. This is the focus reset you've needed. Start now. Chapter 1. Focus fiercely on one goal daily. Focus fiercely on one goal. Daily means deciding where your life goes instead of letting the day decide for you. Most people wake up and react. They check messages, they answer calls, they deal with noise. By the time the day ends, they feel tired but not fulfilled. They were busy but not effective. That is not a focus problem alone. That is a direction problem. Focus becomes powerful only when it has a clear target. One goal. One clear aim that matters enough to deserve your best attention. Every day the mind looks for direction. If you do not give it one strong goal, it will grab 10 weak ones. The human brain likes clarity. Confusion drains energy. When you choose one goal for the day, something changes inside you. Your body feels more steady. Your thoughts slow down. You begin to move with purpose. The day stops feeling heavy and starts feeling meaningful. That is psychology at work. The mind performs better when it knows exactly what it is working toward. Many people say they want success, but their attention is scattered. They work on a little of everything and finish almost nothing. Progress does not come from doing more things. Progress comes from doing the right thing with full attention. One goal daily builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence builds belief. Belief changes behavior. That is how lives change quietly and permanently. Focusing fiercely does not mean rushing. It means staying. Staying with the work when it feels slow. Staying when the phone calls. Staying when boredom shows up. The mind will always try to escape discomfort. That is human nature. Focus is a trained behavior. It grows stronger every time you refuse to quit early. Each time you stay with one task until it is done, you send a clear message to your brain that you are in charge. Over time, the brain learns to obey that message. The goal must be chosen with care, not what sounds good to others, not what looks impressive. The goal must matter to you. When a goal connects to personal values, focus becomes natural. The heart supports the mind. You wake up with a reason. You feel a pull toward the work. That emotional connection keeps you steady when motivation fades. Motivation is unreliable. Purpose is stable. Daily focus requires boundaries, not harsh rules but clear decisions. Certain hours are protected. Certain activities are delayed. The mind needs space to work deeply. When attention is broken every few minutes, the brain struggles to return to depth. That creates frustration. Frustration creates avoidance. Avoidance kills progress. Protecting focus time is an act of self-respect. It tells your inner self that your goals matter. There will be days when progress feels small. That is normal. The mistake is judging the day only by visible results. Focus works quietly before it shows results. Skills grow before success appears. Discipline develops before confidence shows up. The person who understands this stays patient. Patience is not passive. It is active trust in the process of improvement. One goal daily also reduces stress. Stress often comes from too many open loops, too many unfinished tasks, too many promises to yourself that remain broken. When you narrow your focus, you close loops. You finish what you start. Completion creates calm. Calm allows better thinking. Better thinking leads to better decisions. This cycle feeds itself. The mind responds well to rhythm. Doing focused work at the same time each day trains the brain to enter work mode faster. Over time, resistance decreases. The work feels more natural. That is how habits form. Habits reduce the need for constant motivation. They make progress predictable. Predictable progress builds trust in yourself. Self-trust is a powerful force. It changes how you speak to yourself. It changes what you believe is possible. Distraction often comes disguised as urgency. Everything feels important. Everything wants attention now. But not everything deserves your best energy. Focus requires choosing importance over urgency. That choice becomes easier with practice. Each time you say no to something small, you strengthen your ability to say yes to something meaningful. This is mental training. The brain adapts to what you practice daily. Focusing fiercely also means forgiving yourself quickly when you slip. Perfection is not required. Consistency is. Miss one day and return the next. The danger is not failure. The danger is quitting. The person who keeps returning to focus always wins over time. Time favors the committed. When you focus on one goal daily, you begin to notice progress others miss. Small improvements become visible. Skills sharpen. Confidence grows quietly. People may not notice at first, but results eventually speak. When results show up, they appear sudden to outsiders. But you know the truth. They were built through daily attention and repeated effort. Focus creates identity. The actions you repeat become the person you believe you are. When you focus daily, you begin to see yourself as disciplined, as reliable, as capable. Identity drives behavior more than motivation. Once you believe you are a focused person, your actions follow naturally. This is deep psychology. Change the actions and identity follows. Change, identity, and actions become automatic. A focused day feels different in the body. Breathing steadies. Thoughts become clearer. There is less mental noise. Even rest feels better after meaningful work. Sleep improves. Satisfaction replaces restlessness. This is the reward of alignment between intention and action. Choosing one goal daily does not limit life. It sharpens it. You still have many goals over time, but you respect the present moment by giving it one clear direction. This builds a strong foundation. Without focus, ambition collapses under its own weight. Fierce focus is not aggression, it is commitment. Quiet commitment, steady commitment. The kind that shows up without drama. The kind that keeps working when no one is watching. That is where unstoppable power comes from. Not from intensity once in a while, but from attention every day. When focus becomes a daily practice, the future changes. Opportunities appear because skills are ready. Confidence attracts responsibility. Responsibility brings growth. Growth brings fulfillment. This chain begins with a simple daily decision. One goal, one direction, one focused effort at a time. The world will always try to pull attention outward. Success comes from pulling it back inward with purpose. When you decide where your mind goes, you decide where your life goes. That decision made daily builds a force that nothing can easily stop. Chapter 2. Commit fully until distraction loses power. Commit fully until distraction loses power is about deciding that your attention is no longer for sale. Every day the world makes offers for your mind. Notifications, opinions, drama, noise. None of these ask politely. They interrupt. They pull. They demand. Most people give in without realizing it. They feel scattered not because they are weak, but because they never made a clear commitment to stay with something long enough to matter. Commitment is not excitement. Excitement comes and goes. Commitment is a quiet decision that stays even when feelings change. When you commit fully, you stop negotiating with distractions. You stop asking yourself if you feel like continuing. You already decided. That decision removes mental friction. The mind relaxes when it knows there is no debate. This is human psychology. Fewer choices mean less stress. Less stress means better focus. Distraction feeds on hesitation. The moment you pause and wonder whether to continue your work, distraction rushes in. It feels like relief. It feels like a break. But relief that delays growth becomes regret later. Full commitment closes the door before distraction enters. When the door is closed long enough, distraction loses strength. It stops knocking as loudly. Over time, it stops knocking at all. Most distractions are habits, not emergencies. They feel urgent because the brain is trained to seek quick reward. The phone offers instant stimulation. The mind likes easy pleasure. Commitment retrains the brain to value long-term reward over short-term comfort. This training takes time. The early days feel uncomfortable. That discomfort is not a signal to stop. It is a signal that change is happening. When commitment is shallow, distraction wins easily. When commitment is deep, distraction weakens. This is not about fighting every urge. It is about choosing not to engage. The urge appears. You notice it. You return to the task. Each return strengthens control. The brain learns through repetition. Attention improves through practice, not pressure. People often wait for perfect conditions to commit. Quiet environment, high energy, clear schedule. Perfect days rarely exist. Commitment means working through imperfect conditions. Noise outside, fatigue inside, doubt in the mind. Commitment says continue anyway. This builds mental endurance. Endurance creates stability. Stability allows progress even on difficult days. Full commitment also changes how time feels. When attention is divided, time drags. When attention is unified, time flows. Work becomes immersive. Thoughts align. The mind stops jumping. This creates a sense of satisfaction that distraction never provides. That satisfaction reinforces the behavior. The brain begins to associate focus with fulfillment. Distraction often hides behind the excuse of balance. Balance matters, but balance without commitment becomes avoidance. There is a time to rest and a time to push. Commitment clarifies the difference. You rest with intention and work with intention. Nothing is accidental. This intentional living reduces guilt. When rest is chosen deliberately, it feels earned. Committing fully requires honesty. Honest assessment of priorities. Many distractions enter because priorities are unclear. When everything feels important, nothing receives full attention. Clear priorities simplify decisions. They guide behavior automatically. The mind does not waste energy choosing again and again. This conserves mental strength. The moment you commit fully, you begin to see how often attention was leaking. Small checks, quick glances, brief escapes. These seem harmless, but they fragment focus. Fragmented focus produces fragmented results. Commitment seals the leaks. Energy stays directed. Progress accelerates. People often underestimate how powerful sustained attention is. A few hours of deep work outperform days of distracted effort. Results compound quietly. Skills sharpen faster. Understanding deepens. Confidence grows naturally. Others may not notice immediately, Commitment does not seek applause, it seeks progress. Commitment also builds trust within yourself. Each time you keep working despite distraction, you prove reliability. You begin to trust your own promises. This internal trust is rare and valuable. Without it, motivation fades quickly. With it, discipline becomes natural. You act because you believe in your follow-through. Distraction loses power when it stops delivering pleasure. Pleasure fades when attention no longer feeds it. Ignored habits weaken. This is how change happens. Not through force, but through withdrawal of attention. The brain reallocates resources toward what receives focus. What you attend to grows stronger. Commitment does not mean rigidity, it means loyalty to the process. Some days the approach adjusts, the direction stays. Commitment allows flexibility without abandonment. You adapt without quitting. This balance keeps momentum alive. The mind often seeks novelty when progress feels slow. Commitment teaches patience. Progress is not always visible immediately. Some growth happens beneath the surface. Skills organize. Understanding settles. Commitment trusts this invisible work. That trust keeps effort steady. There will be moments when distraction feels overwhelming, emotions run high, fatigue sets in. This is when commitment matters most. Not dramatic commitment, simple commitment. Stay for 5 more minutes. Finish this page. Complete this step. Small acts of staying build strength. Commitment also protects against comparison. When attention stays on personal progress, outside opinions lose influence. Comparison fades. Confidence stabilizes. You measure progress against yesterday, not against others. This is healthy psychology. It keeps motivation internal. The habit of full commitment reshapes identity. You stop seeing yourself as easily distracted. You begin to see yourself as focused and dependable. Identity influences behavior automatically. This shift happens slowly but powerfully through repeated action. Distraction thrives in uncertainty. Commitment creates certainty. The mind relaxes into the decision. Work becomes simpler. Not easier, but simpler. Complexity decreases. Energy increases. Fully committed people still feel temptation. They just respond differently. They pause, they breathe, they return. This response becomes automatic with time. Focus becomes a default state rather than a struggle. Commitment also improves emotional control. When attention stays on meaningful work, emotional swings reduce. Mood stabilizes. Satisfaction increases. This emotional stability improves relationships and decision-making. Every time you choose commitment over distraction, you build something invisible but strong. Mental authority, inner leadership. The ability to direct your own attention is one of the highest forms of personal power. Without it, talent scatters. With it, potential concentrates. Commit fully long enough, and distraction loses its grip. It no longer controls behavior. It becomes background noise. You hear it, but it does not move you. At that point, focus stops feeling forced. It feels natural. Progress feels steady. Confidence feels grounded. This is how unstoppable momentum forms. Not through intensity once, but through commitment daily. Attention aligned with purpose over time becomes a force that shapes outcomes. When commitment stays firm, distractions eventually surrender.
Chapter 3. Cut distractions before they steal momentum. If you want to build real momentum in life, you can't afford to let distractions get the first move. They look small on the surface, but they come in fast and take more than you think. They don't just steal your time, they steal your rhythm, your energy, your thinking, and your ability to follow through. That's why you don't wait to fight them after they've already arrived. You cut them early, You stop them before they have the chance to slow you down. You stay ahead of them before they take control. Most people lose their day in the first hour. They wake up and scroll. They check things that don't matter. They react instead of lead. And once your attention goes to 5 different things before breakfast, it's hard to bring it back. Your mind gets used to jumping. It forgets how to stay with one thing. That's why cutting distractions before they even start is not just a tip. It's a daily decision that determines how far you'll actually go. It begins with awareness. You can't cut what you don't notice. Pay attention to what steals your energy the most. For some people, it's constant messages. For others, it's noise in the background, or open tabs, or even people walking in and out. Some distractions come from the outside, but many are internal. You sit down to work, and your mind suddenly wants to clean your room, or check the weather, or replay something from last week. That's not random. It's your brain trying to escape effort. And if you don't catch it fast, it becomes a pattern, a quiet loop that slows you down day after day. Momentum is fragile. It takes effort to build and only seconds to break. One interruption can reset your entire focus. That's why serious people protect their time like it matters, because it does. You can't build anything great in a distracted state. You can't grow if your mind is pulled in 5 directions every hour. You have to train your attention like a skill, not treat it like a random feeling that comes and goes. Cutting distractions means making real choices. It means turning off things that others keep on. It means stepping back from what most people do by default. You can't do what everyone else does and expect different results. Most people live on autopilot. They let whatever pops up next decide how their day will go. But if you want to be unstoppable, you've got to be intentional. That starts with protecting your focus space before the world gets in. Create a space that supports your attention. That might mean a clean desk. That might mean noise-canceling headphones. That might mean turning your phone off completely during key hours. Not just putting it aside, off, out of sight, out of reach. Because what's near you controls you. If it's easy to grab, your brain will grab it. Not because you're weak, but because the brain loves novelty. The only way to win is to make distraction harder to reach and make deep work easier to start. Cutting distractions is also about planning ahead. A distracted mind looks for an excuse to wander. But a clear plan gives the brain something solid to hold on to. When you know what matters today and why it matters, you're less likely to drift. That's why writing your priorities down every morning isn't a waste of time. It's mental preparation. You're telling your brain where to go before the world tries to pull it somewhere else. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be consistent. If you fall off and get distracted for an hour, don't throw away the rest of the day. Catch it, reset, refocus. The most powerful people are not the ones who never get distracted. They're the ones who come back quickly. They notice when they're off track. They don't wait for the mood to return. They act. That mental snapback is a skill that grows stronger with use. Another part of cutting distractions is learning how to say no without guilt. Every yes to a small thing is a no to a bigger one. That message you just want to reply to real quick might cost you the flow state you were just about to enter. That quick peek at your feed could turn into 20 minutes of lost. And it's not about being extreme. It's about being honest. How much do you want to grow? How much do you value this moment in front of you? What you allow becomes what you repeat, and what you repeat becomes who you are. So if your default is to get distracted, it becomes part of your identity. But if your default is to protect your focus, then that's who you become. Someone others can count on. Someone who follows through. Someone who doesn't waste energy on things that don't move them forward. That kind of self-image builds power from the inside out. Not all distractions are obvious. Some come disguised as progress, like jumping from one idea to the next, or switching projects halfway through, or researching endlessly, but never starting. These look like effort, but they are actually avoidance. Avoidance of difficulty. Avoidance of boredom. Real focus means staying even when it gets dull. Even when it gets slow. Even when it gets slow. Even when no one is clapping. You keep going because you're building something real. And you know that nothing real gets built without full attention. The brain gets used to what you feed it. If you train it on fast switches, it craves speed. But if you train it to stay, it learns to go deep. Deeper work gives better results. Better results give more confidence. And confidence makes it easier to focus. This cycle is powerful, but it starts with a single decision to cut what doesn't belong. Cutting distractions isn't a one-time fix. It's a daily mindset. It's you telling yourself, my time matters, my focus matters, my goals matter. You don't need to explain that to anyone. You don't need to justify it. You just live it, day after day, until focus becomes your default and momentum becomes who you are. You will still have off days. You'll still lose track sometimes, but you'll recover faster. You'll notice sooner. And you'll keep moving, because once you understand how much distractions truly cost you, not just in time, but in potential, you stop giving them your energy. You stop feeding them. You stop letting them shape your days. You begin to move differently. You become more intentional, more grounded, more present. And people feel it. They see that you're not available for everything anymore. You're focused on something real. That kind of energy is rare, and it's powerful. It's the kind of energy that builds momentum, and the kind that makes you unstoppable. Not in theory, but in real life. Because when you cut what doesn't matter, what does matter finally has the space to grow.
Chapter 4. Lock attention on work until finished. If you want to become the kind of person who finishes what they start, then you must learn to lock your attention on the task in front of you and stay there until it's done. Not halfway done, not almost there. Done. Because something powerful happens inside a person when they follow through. They build inner strength. They build respect for their own word. And they begin to trust themselves in a way that distraction never allows. Most people don't have a problem starting. Starting is easy. It's the middle where everything falls apart. That's where most quit. That's where people shift to something else. Chase a new idea. Check their phone or convince themselves that now isn't the right time. But that habit of leaving things unfinished doesn't just affect your projects, it affects how you see yourself. Every time you abandon your work halfway through, you tell yourself, I don't finish things. And your mind believes that story even if you don't say it out loud. That's why locking in on one task until it's done is more than productivity advice. It's how you rewire your thinking. It's how you build discipline. It's how you create the type of focus that people admire but rarely practice. This kind of focus doesn't just happen. You train it. You decide that when you sit down to do something, you're not leaving until it's finished. No matter how uncomfortable it gets. The discomfort will come. That's part of it. Your brain will look for an escape. It will give you every excuse it can think of. I'm tired. I should check on something else. This isn't going well. It'll tempt you with other tabs, other thoughts, other tasks. This is normal, but your job is not to listen to every thought that shows up. Your job is to stay. Just stay, even when it's slow, even when it's boring, even when it feels like nothing is working. Because this is how real progress works. It's rarely exciting in the moment. When you learn to stay with the work, something starts to shift inside you. You stop chasing stimulation and start building strength.
You don't need to rely on motivation anymore because now you have focus. Focus is stronger than motivation. It doesn't depend on your mood. It doesn't disappear when things get hard. It stays. This kind of focused work brings clarity. When your attention is spread across 5 things, your thinking gets cloudy. Your judgment becomes weaker. But when you lock your attention on one thing, your thoughts become sharp. You see problems clearer. You solve them faster. Your effort gets deeper. The result? Better outcomes in less time. But here's the truth. None of this works unless you commit to finishing. That finish line must matter. Whether it's 1 page written, 1 email sent, 1 project delivered. Whatever your work is, make it a rule to complete it before moving on. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you're training your mind to stay on course. You're breaking the cycle of jumping from one thing to the next without ever seeing something through. You don't need 10 hours a day. You need full attention in the hours you already have. 1 focused hour is worth more than 3 distracted ones. People waste days dabbling in surface-level work, never really dropping into that deep space where real results happen. When you lock in, you access that space, and when you live in that space more often, you rise above the noise of the average. To do this consistently, you need to eliminate the option of escape. That means working in full screen. That means silencing your phone and keeping it out of reach. That means putting your environment in your favor. Don't expect focus to happen in a cluttered space full of noise and triggers. Design your environment to support deep work, because the way you shape your space shapes your attention. And more than anything, train your mind to love completion. When you finish something, pause and feel it. Don't rush to the next thing. Notice how it feels to complete. That sense of closure, that satisfaction of seeing something through, that's your reward. Let it sink in. That reward is what makes you want to do it again tomorrow. It's not about perfection. It's about presence. It's about giving the task everything you've got, with full presence, until it's done. It's about not leaving halfway, not wandering, not splitting your energy. Because split energy leads to average outcomes. Locked-in energy leads to breakthrough. You don't get better by being busy. You get better by being present with your work long enough for it to evolve. Your potential is not limited by your talent. It's limited by how often you leave things unfinished. Unfinished work collects in the back of your mind like mental clutter. It drains you. It weighs you down. Every time you complete something, you remove that weight. You create mental space. You open up bandwidth. You free up energy that can now go into building something new. People will notice, not because you're louder, but because your results will speak. Focused work shows. It carries weight. You'll produce things others respect because you didn't skip the hard part. The staying. The work that actually moves you forward lives past the point where most people quit. That's where excellence begins. And if you think locking your attention on one task until it's done is too difficult, ask yourself this. How much energy have you wasted switching tasks? How much progress have you lost starting over again and again? How many ideas have been delayed because you left them hanging halfway through? Staying with the work saves more time than quitting ever will. Build this skill day by day. Choose one task and see it through. Don't break your focus just because it's tempting. Don't stop because it's hard. Stop only when the task is done. This practice builds strength, mental strength, emotional strength, and practical discipline. The kind of discipline that carries into everything you do. You don't have to wait for the perfect time. You don't need to feel ready. You just need to lock in. Decide what matters today. Start, stay, finish. And when you finish, move forward with the confidence that comes from doing exactly what you said you would. That's how you build momentum. That's how you become someone who is not just active, but effective. And that's how you become unstoppable. Not because you do more, but because you do what matters with full focus until the end.
Chapter 5. Train focus muscles through hard, boring tasks. If your mind can stay focused during the boring parts, you're already ahead of most people. Not because you're smarter, not because you're faster, but because you've trained a skill they avoid. Focus isn't built when you're feeling inspired. It's built in the quiet, slow and repetitive parts that most people try to skip. Those long stretches where progress feels invisible. That's where your focus muscles grow. Doing boring work isn't a waste of time. It's actually the gym for your brain. It's where you build mental stamina. It's where you develop the power to stay with something that doesn't entertain you. Most people can pay attention when things are new or exciting, but the people who rise to the top are the ones who can stay focused when everything feels dull and nothing is moving fast. That's the test, and that's the training. Think about how physical strength is built. You don't get stronger by lifting once. You lift repeatedly. You feel the strain. You feel resistance. And then you come back and do it again. That's how your body learns to adapt. Your focus works the same way. If you only use it when you feel like it, it stays weak. But if you keep showing up, especially when it feels slow, your mind gets sharper. You stop needing constant stimulation. You become more grounded, more present, more capable of doing deep work. The reason boring tasks are so powerful is because they don't give your brain any reward right away. That's why they're hard. You don't get the rush. You don't get praise. You don't get dopamine. All you get is the task in front of you. That's exactly why they're valuable, because they teach you to focus without needing a prize. You might not feel the benefits right away. In fact, it will often feel like nothing is happening. But while you're working on something repetitive, your ability to stay with the task is quietly getting stronger. That strength carries over into everything else. Writing, studying, solving problems, planning long-term, staying calm in high-pressure moments. All of these depend on how long your mind can stay centered on what matters. The biggest threat to focus isn't distraction, it's discomfort. The moment something feels boring, your brain searches for an escape. That escape might be a new tab. It might be scrolling. It might be switching to another task. All of these feel better in the short term. But every time you choose the easier path, you're weakening your ability to stay locked in. The mind starts to believe that boredom is something to run from. The more you avoid it, the more control it gains. The way to flip that pattern is to lean into boring tasks on purpose. Instead of escaping, stay with them. Instead of rushing, slow down. Feel the resistance. Let your brain wrestle with the stillness. You'll notice something it fights back at first. But if you don't run, the noise gets quieter. You stop feeling so anxious. You begin to settle into the work. This is when your focus starts to evolve. You don't need hours of painful effort. You need consistency. Even 20 minutes of deep focus on a repetitive task builds stamina. You're not just getting something done. You're training your brain to stop expecting constant entertainment. And that shift is powerful, because once you no longer need your work to feel exciting, you start to get real work done. There's also a hidden benefit. Boring tasks often teach you more than you expect. When you stay with something long enough, you start to notice details. You see patterns. You understand things you missed before. Boredom isn't always empty. Sometimes it's the space your mind needs to go deeper. But you'll only discover that if you don't leave too soon. Your ability to focus is tied directly to how often you practice focus. If you go days or weeks without doing hard mental work, your attention weakens. But if you give your mind something challenging and uneventful each day, and you stay with it, you'll notice a difference.
You'll feel less restless. You'll become more patient. You'll stop quitting at the first sign of difficulty. The people who master focus don't have more willpower. They have more training. They've gone through the long hours of doing things that most people label as boring or beneath them. They've answered the emails, sorted the file, read the long pages, done the slow work. It's not glamorous, but it builds something inside you that no shortcut ever will. One of the best things you can do is set aside a block of time each day to do something that challenges your focus. It could be organizing something with no distraction. It could be writing a page without checking anything else. It could be solving problems with full attention. You'll notice how quickly your mind wants to leave. That's okay. Just stay. Stay a little longer than you want to. That's how your focus muscle grows. This mindset also helps you in moments when you don't feel like working. When your brain says this is too dull, you now see that as training, not punishment. You now understand that boring doesn't mean useless. It means valuable. Because boring is the resistance your mind has to overcome. And every time it does, you get a little stronger. There are no shortcuts to mental strength. And there's no app or hack that replaces the need for consistent effort. The boring stuff is the foundation. You build from there. And once that foundation is solid, everything else becomes easier. You don't burn out as fast. You don't give up as easily. You don't get thrown off by small delays. Start small. Don't overwhelm yourself. Just pick one task a day that you usually rush through or avoid. This time give it full focus. No checking, no skipping, no switching, just full attention until it's done. Then do it again tomorrow and again the next day. This rhythm builds reliability in your focus, and that reliability will carry you through the more demanding moments when the stakes are high. You'll realize over time that you no longer fear long tasks. You no longer avoid work just because it isn't exciting. You've built up the ability to stay. That's rare. That's valuable. And that's what gives you an edge. Most people chase stimulation. You train focus. Most people quit when it feels dry. You keep going. Most people wait to feel ready. You show up and practice. That's how you win. Not by working harder, but by working longer, deeper, and more deliberately. When others stop, focus isn't a gift, it's a choice, a skill, a muscle, and the best way to strengthen it is through the tasks nobody wants to do. Because when you can focus during the boring stuff, you can handle anything.
Chapter 6. Ignore comfort urges and stay working longer. The urge to stop comes before the real work begins. It doesn't show up at the end of the task. It shows up right in the middle, when your mind hits resistance and your body wants relief. That's the breaking point, and it's not caused by exhaustion. It's caused by the craving for comfort. This is the moment most people stop. They tell themselves they've done enough. They stand up. They check their phone. They take a break that turns into quitting. That moment kills more progress than failure ever will. And if you want to become truly focused, driven, and consistent, you have to train yourself to keep going when everything in you says pause. The mind is wired to avoid discomfort. It looks for the path of least resistance. When something feels tiring or slow, it looks for an easier option. You start thinking about snacks, checking notifications, getting fresh air, or switching tasks. These aren't bad things, but when they interrupt your work every time discomfort appears, they become traps. They build a habit of quitting early. That habit gets stronger the more you follow it. Soon you can't work for more than 20 minutes without needing something to break the tension. And when you can't sit in tension, you can't go deep. You stay on the surface, and surface effort never brings deep results. Staying longer doesn't mean pushing until burnout. It means noticing the urge to stop and not following it.
It means giving yourself just 10 more minutes, even when you feel done. That's where growth lives, not in the work itself, but in the decision to stay. You're training your focus to work past emotion. You're teaching your attention that it doesn't need comfort to keep going. That decision builds something deeper than discipline. It builds control. Control over your reaction, control over your thoughts, control over what gets your energy and what doesn't. Most people don't have that kind of control. Not because they're weak, but because they've never trained it. They've never practiced sitting with the discomfort. They've never pushed past the voice that says, "You've done enough." Here's the truth. The work that changes you is the work you do after you want to stop. That extra time is not just about finishing a task. It's about becoming the kind of person who doesn't give up the second things feel uncomfortable. That change rewires your mindset. It shifts the way you look at effort. And when your mind starts to believe that staying is normal, you become dangerous to every excuse that once held you back. The problem with giving in to comfort is that it rewards the wrong behavior. Every time you stop early, the brain learns that relief comes from avoidance. It memorizes that pattern. It starts giving you those urges sooner next time. Soon, even 5 minutes of focused effort feels like too much. Your tolerance drops, your attention shrinks, and you start to believe that you're not built for deep work. But that's not true. You're just out of training, and training begins by staying longer than you want to. You don't need to work through pain. You just need to stop escaping mild discomfort. The kind that shows up when you're tired of thinking, or when the work gets repetitive, or when the results don't come fast enough. That's not suffering. That's growth. And avoiding it every time is like stepping off the treadmill every time your legs get sore. You'll never build stamina that way. The only way is to stay. Stay even when your mind wants out. Stay until you've completed what you committed to. Stay until the resistance fades. And yes, the resistance does fade. That's something most people never realize, because they never wait long enough. But if you push through the first wave, the second one is easier. If you stay through that second wave, the third might not even come. And suddenly, what felt impossible an hour ago now feels natural. That's not motivation, it's momentum. And you only get it by refusing to walk away too soon. You also learn something powerful when you stay longer. You learn that feelings are not instruction. Just because you feel like quitting doesn't mean you should. Just because your body wants comfort doesn't mean it's time to stop. Those signals are natural, but they don't get to decide how far you go. You decide. You train your focus to stay on the path, even when the path feels steep. And the more you do that, the more those urges lose their power. The strongest people in the world aren't the ones who never get tired. They're the ones who keep going even when they are. Not recklessly, not without rest, but with awareness. They know that urge to quit is temporary, that it's just a signal to pay attention, not to stop. So they stay. They stretch their focus a little further. They build mental muscle while others check out. That's what makes the difference in results. Not talent, not speed, not luck, but staying power. The ability to keep working when others take a break. The ability to finish when others get distracted. The ability to keep promises to yourself, even when you don't feel like it. That's the kind of person who makes real progress, not because they had it easier, but because they trained hard. This doesn't mean ignoring your health. It means understanding the difference between real exhaustion and temporary urges. If you're truly drained, rest, but don't confuse boredom with burnout. Don't confuse resistance with danger. Learn to feel the difference. Learn to sit with discomfort and ask yourself, is this urge real or just familiar? Most of the time it's just your old habits trying to keep control. You don't have to listen. Set a timer, add 5 minutes. Stay with your work just a little longer. Train that muscle one day at a time. It won't feel good at first. That's okay. It's not supposed to. You're teaching your brain something new. And like all training, It takes repetition, but soon you'll notice that your tolerance grows, your focus deepens, your energy lasts long, and you stop needing everything to feel comfortable in order to be productive. The world doesn't need more people chasing comfort. It needs more people who can stay working when it's quiet, when it's slow, when nobody is watching. That kind of work builds strength. That can't be taken away. You'll know it's working when the things that used to feel hard start to feel normal. That's not just progress, that's transformation. And it all starts by ignoring the urge to stop too soon. That small moment where you stay a little longer, that's where everything changes. Not later, not when it's easy. Right there in the middle of the tension, that's where you prove to yourself that you're in control, that your goals matter more than your comfort, that your future matters more than your feelings. That's where you grow, that's where you separate yourself, and that's how you become someone who finishes strong, no matter how you feel.
Chapter 7. Protect focus time like a daily appointment. When something is truly important to you, you make time for it, not excuses. And that's exactly how you need to treat your focus, like it's non-negotiable, like it's an appointment with your future. If you keep leaving your focused work up to chance, it'll keep getting pushed aside. It'll get buried under noise, interruptions, and other people's plans. That's why your focus time can't be when I feel like it or when I'm free. It has to live in your day with the same weight and structure as a scheduled meeting. The difference is, this meeting is with your purpose, your goals, your growth. And when you treat it that way, everything in your life begins to shift. There's a reason people never feel like they have time for deep work. It's not because they're too busy, it's because they give their most valuable hours away without realizing it. They wake up and start reacting. They open messages, they check update, they let the day start pulling them in 5 directions before they've even done one thing that matters. And by the time they sit down to focus, their energy's gone, their thoughts are scattered, and the window for real progress has already closed. This is not a time problem, it's a boundary problem. You haven't drawn the line around your focus time yet. You haven't told the world, this is my block, this is where I do the real work, this is where I move forward, and until you do, everything else will keep taking its place. Not because others are wrong, but because they don't know your priorities unless you show them. Treating your focus time like a daily appointment means putting it on the calendar, just like anything else. Not hoping for it, not squeezing it in, actually blocking it out clearly and consistently. That's the first step to making focus real. Not just a nice idea. If it's important, it deserves a place in your day that can't be touched. Now, once it's on your calendar, you protect it. That means no casual messages during that window. That means you don't schedule anything else over it. That means you don't reschedule it unless it's an emergency, and scrolling social media, running errands, or doing busy work is not an emergency. If someone asks to meet during that time, you say, I already have a commitment, and that commitment is to yourself, to your growth, to the thing you said you wanted. It might feel strange at first to block out time like that. You might feel like you're being too rigid. But ask yourself, how often has flexibility turned into avoidance? How often have you let small interruptions replace what actually mattered? This isn't about being overly strict. It's about giving your focus the same respect you give other people's time, because if you don't respect your own focus, no one else will. During your focus window, don't just sit in front of a screen and hope you'll figure it out. Know exactly what you're going to do before you start. Go into that time with a clear goal. What needs to get done? What will progress look like? The clearer you are, the easier it is to drop into the work. Confusion is the enemy of deep focus. When you're unclear, your mind drifts, but when your target is sharp, your energy follows. Set up your environment to support you. That means removing anything that pulls your attention. Close the tabs. Silence the phone. Clear the clutter.
You want to make it easy to drop into flow. You want to signal to your brain that this time is different. That this is not a casual moment, it's your best hour. You're not available for anything else. And when you sit down to work, don't negotiate with the discomfort. The urge to stop, the pull to check something else, it's going to come, that's normal. But this is your appointment. You don't leave halfway through. You don't get up because it's hard. You stay, you do the work, and you build trust with yourself every single time you follow through. One focused hour like this can do more than 4 hours of scattered effort. That's not just theory. That's real, measurable impact. Because focused work has depth. It moves the needle. It finishes things. It builds skill. And it gives you back a sense of control in a world that keeps trying to pull your attention in 100 directions. The more you protect this time, the easier it gets. Your mind starts to recognize the pattern. You sit down, and your brain starts to quiet. You enter that space faster. Your thoughts settle. Your pace picks up. And suddenly, you're not forcing yourself to focus. It becomes natural, but it only becomes natural after repetition. After enough days of saying, "This is the hour I work, no matter what," this practice builds discipline. Not in a forced way, but in a dependable way. It creates a daily rhythm, and that rhythm becomes the foundation for everything else you want to do. You stop chasing motivation. You stop needing the perfect moment. You show up, and the work gets done. Even the people around you begin to adjust. They learn that during a certain time, you're not available, and instead of getting pushback, you start getting respect. Because people recognize clarity. They respond to people who are serious about their time. Not just busy, serious. This also gives you peace. You no longer end your days wondering where the time went. You don't go to bed with guilt or regret. You know that no matter how the rest of the day went, you kept your appointment with yourself. That's powerful. That's what builds confidence. Not results alone, but the consistency of effort. The ability to show up for yourself no matter what. Start small if you need to. Maybe it's 30 minutes a day. Maybe it's 1 hour before the world wakes up. The amount doesn't matter. The protection does. You're telling your brain, your calendar, and your environment, this time matters. And over time, it begins to add up. Days become weeks, weeks become momentum. And that momentum carries you into a life of follow-through. You can't buy focus. You can't borrow it. You earn it. And the way you earn it is by showing up for it, every day. Just like an important meeting. You don't cancel. You don't push it back. You don't wait until you're in the mood. You honor it. You prioritize it. You make it real. Because when you do, you start to see what's possible. You stop spinning. You stop reacting. You start building. That's what separates people who talk about their goals from people who live them. Not some secret system. Not more time in the day. Just one protected block of focused effort every single day. That's the appointment that changes everything. And it's the one you never miss. Chapter 8. Channel energy into progress, not endless planning. Planning is safe. It feels productive. It gives you the feeling that you're doing something without having to face the difficulty of starting. But energy that stays stuck in planning never builds results. Thinking is important, but overthinking is delay in disguise. At some point, the question is not what the perfect plan looks like. It's whether you've taken a single real step forward. The people who grow fast are not the ones with the most detailed plans. They're the ones who move, they act, they adjust. They build progress with action, not just theory. It's easy to sit in the planning stage. You feel smart, you feel organized, you tell yourself you're just preparing. But preparation has a limit. When you cross that line, It turns into procrastination dressed up as strategy. You're not getting clearer, you're avoiding the pressure of execution. And the longer you stay there, the more fear starts to grow, because planning is clean, action is messy. Once you start, things get real, but real is where growth lives. When you keep revisiting the same plan without taking the first step, your brain starts to lose urgency. You start to believe you're making progress just by updating a document or adjusting your schedule. But no document builds skill. No calendar block creates output. Only action does that. A rough, imperfect step taken today is worth more than the perfect plan you revisit every morning, but never act on. Progress is built by doing. Even small steps count. Even slow movement matters, because real progress teaches you more than planning ever will. It gives you feedback. It shows you what's working. It reveals what needs to be adjusted. That kind of learning doesn't come from thinking alone. It comes from living through it, testing it, facing the friction directly. That's where your energy should go, not into constant redesigning, but into motion. The reason so many people stay stuck is because they wait until they feel completely ready. But the truth is, full readiness never comes. You don't need a 10-step system to start. You need a clear first task and the decision to do it. Action builds clarity, not the other way around. The more you move, the more you see. The more you wait, the more your vision blurs and your confidence fades. And it's not about rushing, it's about shifting the balance. Instead of putting 80% of your energy into perfecting the plan, put that energy into execution. You'll figure out what needs changing along the way. Your experience will guide you better than your imagination ever could. Because once you start, your brain switches modes. You're no longer theorizing, you're solving, you're adapting, you're in motion. There's a difference between thinking deeply and stalling repeatedly. Real planning serves the goal. It doesn't replace the work. When it turns into a loop of constant adjustment with no movement, you have to call it what it is: hesitation. And hesitation costs more than mistakes ever will. You can recover from a wrong move. You can't grow from never starting. A simple plan acted on with focus beats a complex plan left untouched. The simplicity allows speed. It frees your mind from over-analysis. You're not spending time wondering which option is best. You're doing the work, and once you're in the work, your thinking improves. You stop guessing and start learning. You become more resourceful. You figure it out faster. That builds momentum. Momentum gives you energy, and that energy makes you want to keep going. When you channel energy into progress, you stop depending on the perfect moment. You use what you have, where you are. You stop trying to guarantee success before taking a single step. You understand that real success is built through movement, not certainty. You gain confidence from follow-through, not from designing every possibility in advance. Many people waste months trying to predict what could go wrong instead of building something and learning through it. They talk themselves out of progress by focusing on every small flaw in the plan. But flaws are normal. Imperfect action gives you information. That information makes you smarter, and smarter action gives you better results. It's also important to understand that planning can become a way to protect your ego. As long as you're planning, you don't have to face the chance that something might not work. You stay in control. You stay comfortable. But comfort never leads to transformation. If you want to become better, sharper, and more capable, you have to lean into the process, not just design the path. You'll never build confidence if you keep avoiding the start. Confidence is earned. It's earned through the hard work of doing. It's earned by staying in the work when you don't have everything figured out. Every time you act before you feel fully ready, you grow a little, and that growth gives you more strength to take on what comes next. The people who make real progress don't wait for all the answers. They take what they know and move forward. They're not reckless. They're not careless. They're just willing to start with version 1 and improve from there, because they understand that doing teaches more than planning ever could. They trust that progress comes from putting energy into the action, not just into the blueprint. This mindset doesn't ignore planning. It just puts it in its proper place. You need structure. You need direction. But once that's set, you move. You don't revisit it every time you feel resistance. You use it as a foundation, not a hiding place. You get in the habit of asking yourself, have I acted today? If the answer is no, you don't need a better plan. You need movement, and it's often the small actions that shift everything. A phone call made, a piece written, a task completed. These are not dramatic, but they matter. They remind your mind that you are capable. They prove that you can start and finish. They replace doubt with evidence, and that evidence begins to reshape your identity. You're not someone who just plans anymore. You're someone who follows through. You're someone who executes. That changes how you see yourself, and how you see yourself affects every choice you make after that. Progress makes you feel alive. It gives you momentum. It builds belief. But that only happens when you direct your energy into forward motion. Not endless redesigning, not constant tweaking, not another round of figuring it out. Just honest work. Right now, right here. That shift from planning endlessly to acting consistently is what separates intention from results. Everyone wants better results. Fewer are willing to step away from their planning boards and get their hands dirty. But if you want to grow, if you want to lead, if you want to build something real, your energy must go into doing. That's where the change happens. That's where the learning lives. That's where your future gets built, one action at a time.
Chapter 9. Finish small wins to build unstoppable confidence. Confidence isn't something you wait for. It's something you build, and the way you build it is by stacking small wins over and over until your mind has no choice but to believe in your ability. It's not about making massive leaps or waiting for a breakthrough. It's about doing the simple things you promised yourself you'd do and actually finishing them. That's where unstoppable confidence begins, not in talking big, but in delivering on the small. You start by choosing something you know you can finish today, not something vague, not something massive, something clear, something you can complete with focus and effort. One email, one page, one rep, one clear task. When you complete it, you get a spark, a tiny signal to your brain that says, I said I would, and I did. That signal is more powerful than any motivational quote or speech, because it's internal. It comes from proof. The more often you finish what you start, the more your identity begins to change. You stop seeing yourself as someone who gives up. You stop doubting your follow-through. You stop second-guessing your potential. That shift doesn't happen overnight. It happens each time you close a loop, each time you follow through, each time you check something off, not for the sake of ticking boxes, but because you're teaching yourself that you are capable. Most people try to build confidence by hyping themselves up. They say things like, I got this, or I believe in myself, but their actions don't match. Their words are loud, but their habits are quiet, and deep down they feel the gap. You can't fake self-trust. You can't trick your brain into confidence. It has to be earned, and it gets earned through consistency, not noise. When you finish something, really finish it, you create momentum, and momentum creates clarity. You're no longer stuck in that fog of should I keep going, or is this even working? You know it's working because you've made something real happen. Even if it's small, even if no one sees it, it counts. It counts because your brain keeps score, and each win adds weight to your belief.
The mistake many people make is thinking they need to wait until they feel confident to act, but it's the opposite. You act first. You move through fear. You do the task even when you're unsure, and in that moment when you don't feel ready but you go anyway, that's where the real power is built. You show yourself what you're made of, and that becomes the foundation for stronger decisions and bigger goals. One of the fastest ways to feel stuck is to leave everything half done. Open tasks, unfinished projects, constant restarting. This drains you. It creates a loop where nothing feels complete, and you begin to question your ability. That's why finishing matters. When you close a task, you close mental tabs. You free up energy. You move lighter into the next thing. You become quicker to focus and faster to act. Finishing also builds resilience, because not every task will feel exciting. Some will feel dull, some will feel hard. But when you finish anyway, you build grit. You build the ability to follow through when the emotion fades. That's what separates committed people from casual ones. Committed people work through the flat spots. They show up when it's not easy, and that effort adds up to real confidence. Start paying attention to your daily wins. Write them down. Don't ignore the small stuff. If you woke up on time, that's a win. If you did the workout, that's a win. If you sent the email you've been avoiding, that's a win. Stack them. Track them. Let them remind you of who you're becoming. Because the more evidence you build, the harder it becomes to doubt yourself. You don't need huge achievements to feel powerful. You need a consistent record of follow-through. A track record that proves, I don't wait for perfect days. I don't make excuses. I keep my word. When that becomes your standard, your confidence no longer depends on outside approval. It comes from action, and action is always in your control. This is also how you break the pattern of overthinking. When you're stuck in your head, you hesitate. You analyze every move. You look for guarantees. But small wins interrupt that loop. They pull you out of planning and into execution. They give you data instead of doubt. They remind you that you don't need to figure out the whole path. You just need to complete what's in front of you. Confidence from small wins is stable. It doesn't crash when one thing goes wrong. It doesn't disappear when someone criticizes you. It's built on repetition. So even when something fails, you don't fall apart. You know it's just one step. You've finished before. You'll finish again. That mindset makes you hard to shake. It gives you mental stability when others spiral. You'll also notice that the more wins you build, the more ambitious you become. Not because you suddenly feel brave, but because you trust yourself to show up. That trust becomes the launch pad for bigger goals. You no longer fear failure the same way, because you've proven that you can act without perfect conditions. You've proven that you can begin, stay, and complete. Don't wait for motivation to give you that feeling. Create it by doing the thing. Set a task right now, one clear, specific task, and finish it. Not halfway, all the way. Feel that shift when it's done. That little surge inside you that says, I did that. That's the fuel. Use it. Don't waste it by sitting still. Roll it into the next thing. Start a streak. Stack wins until your mind can't deny your growth. Confidence is not built in the big moments. It's built in the quiet ones. When no one is watching. When there's no applause. When you're just doing what needs to be done. That's where character is shaped. And that character becomes the root of unstoppable progress. You'll reach points where you're tired, where your goals feel far, where you'll wonder if it's worth it. In those moments, return to what you've already finished. Let it remind you, you've been here before. You kept going. You did the hard thing. You didn't stop when it got boring or tough. That history becomes your strength. Every time you finish something small, you rewrite the story your mind tells about you. From I can't focus to I get things done. From I never finish to I follow through. From I hope this works to I'll make this work. That's the power of action. It changes your identity from the inside out. And when your identity shifts, everything changes. Your choices, your standards, your habits, your results. But it starts with one step, one win, and then another. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be fast. You just need to finish again and again. That's how confidence is built. And that's how you become unstoppable.
Chapter 10. Become unstoppable by focusing harder daily. Becoming unstoppable doesn't happen through a single burst of effort. It happens through focused intensity, repeated daily. It's built by the person who wakes up and decides every morning to sharpen their attention more than they did yesterday, to stay with the work longer, to care more about the task at hand, to block out the noise, the drama, the distractions, and give all of themselves to what matters most. That's what unstoppable people do. They don't rely on emotion. They don't chase random inspiration. They train their focus like it's their edge, because it is. You don't become focused by accident. You become focused by choice, and not once but over and over again, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. The average mind wants to drift. It wants the easy option. It wants to relax early, switch tasks quickly, or quit when it's almost done. And that's exactly why most people stay stuck, because they never push past that edge. But you, if you choose to, can become different. You can lean in harder when others lean back. You can get sharper while the rest get distracted. That choice, repeated daily, builds something rare inside you. Focus is not a personality trait. It's a daily behavior. It's waking up and deciding, this is my mission, and this is what I will give my energy to. It's not about being perfect. It's about being clear. You know what you're aiming for, and you protect it. You don't scroll mindlessly before doing your best work. You don't allow minor things to pull you away. You don't wait for ideal conditions. You begin anyway, and you bring your full attention with you. Every day offers you moments where your mind wants to wander, where the work feels hard, where it seems like doing something else would be easier. But these are the exact moments that separate focused people from the rest. Most give in, they pause, they drift, they tell themselves they'll come back later. But that habit becomes a loop that never ends. You want to break that loop. Stay when it gets tough. Don't leave when it gets boring. Keep your eyes on the work until it's finished. Do this often enough, and your brain starts to change. It stops fighting you. It starts cooperating. Daily focus isn't about extreme hours. It's about consistent intensity. Even one deeply focused hour can outperform a whole day of scattered effort. The power comes from how present you are, not how long you sit at your desk. If you train yourself to go all in, even for short blocks, you'll make more progress than most people make in weeks. You'll become known as the person who the person who doesn't just start strong, but finishes well. And you'll carry a quiet confidence that doesn't come from talking. It comes from knowing you did the real work. To focus harder daily, you need structure. You need to define the windows where nothing else matters. That's your time to push. No distractions, no casual tasks, just pure attention on your most important work. You don't let the day decide when those moments happen. You decide. You set the appointment, and when that time comes, you show up fully. You also need to track your distraction, not to judge yourself, but to understand yourself. Where does your mind go when things get difficult? What are the patterns? What excuses show up? Know them, study them, then interrupt them, replace them, redirect your energy to something real. This is how you take your focus back, not by wishing,
but by working on it deliberately. And if you want to take it even further, practice focusing when no one is watching. Not just during high-pressure deadlines, but in the quiet hours, in the moments that feel slow. That's when true discipline is formed. That's when you stop depending on external pressure and start building internal drive. That's when your work starts to reflect depth, not because you rushed, but because you stayed with it. You'll also need to stop chasing balance all the time. Balance sounds good, but what most people call balance is really just avoidance. You don't need to be everywhere. You don't need to answer everyone. You don't need to say yes to every invite. If you want to grow, if you want to do something that actually moves the needle, then some days will feel unbalanced. That's okay. That's focus. You're not avoiding life. You're choosing the part that matters most right now. And that choice requires courage. As you focus harder each day, you'll start to feel the compound effect. Work becomes smoother. Distractions become quieter. Your thoughts get clearer. You waste less time restarting and more time creating. You become faster without rushing. You get more done with less stress. Not because life got easier, but because your mind got stronger. You trained it to stay where it belongs, and people will notice. Not because you're loud, but because you're consistent. They'll see that you're not scattered like the rest. They'll feel that you're grounded. They'll trust that when you say you're working on something, it's actually getting done. That kind of reputation is earned, not given. And it begins with your decision to take focus seriously, not as a trend, but as a lifestyle. You'll also build something most people don't have: emotional endurance, the ability to stay calm under pressure, the strength to keep working when the results aren't instant, the mindset to rise when things don't go your way. That doesn't come from reading or talking. It comes from doing the hard thing daily, from staying focused when you don't feel like it, from choosing discipline over ease, again and again. And even when others fall off, you'll keep moving, not because you're special, but because you trained. You've done you've built the mental muscle. You've made focus your default. That's what unstoppable really means. Not that you never get tired, not that you never feel doubt, but that you keep showing up anyway. You don't let emotion dictate action. You stay connected to your mission, and you let that lead the way. You may not always see the results right away, but every day you focus harder. You're adding to something invisible but powerful. You're stacking quiet wins. You're building the ability to enter flow quickly. You're reducing noise and increasing impact. You're shaping a mind that's hard to break. And when your focus becomes that sharp, it doesn't just change your work, it changes your life. No one hands you focus. You earn it. You train it. You practice it until it becomes part of who you are. So stop waiting for the right time. Stop blaming the environment. Stop chasing quick fixes. Choose to lock in today, even if it's just a little more than yesterday. That little bit adds up. And one day, without even realizing it, you'll look back and see how far you've come. Not because of one big moment, but because of the daily effort to focus harder. That's what makes you unstoppable. Not someday, but now.